I find it hard to believe that we are approaching the longest day of 2020. With all the restrictions which have been placed upon us due to coronavirus, probably like many others, I find myself struggling to appreciate that we are now moving towards the end of June. Much of the spring would seem to have been perhaps in some ways lost, although the weather has been great. And before too long we'll have to cope with the nights drawing in. That said, though, it seems as if there might just be some opportunities for us to enjoy some of the summer before we move into the autumn. There might, just as they say, be light at the end of the tunnel. I have a lasting memory of a holiday in Shetland at the beginning of July, almost 30 years ago. In actual fact, for Shetland, the weather was approaching a record. The temperature hit over 70 degrees, which was very unusual in those northerly climes. But for me, my main memory was of what's called the simmer-dim, the fact that you could be outside at 11 o'clock at night with no real darkness. The sun certainly dimmed, but before it set, it began to rise again. There was no night, as we are used to experiencing it even during the middle of the summer in central Scotland. Such thoughts have led me to consider the subject of light and its importance to us. I have been brought to consider the fact that pottery making was a lucrative business in the ancient world. Sadly, it invited its share of shoddy craftsmanship. Some people were more interested in making a profit than in demanding quality. And if some unscrupulous artisans discovered that some pottery was cracked or blemished, they would often rub wax into the damaged area in order to cover up the offending mark. The average person could not detect the flaw and wouldn't know until the pot was heated that it was not sound and solid. And this common practice led to the more respected pottery makers posting a sign over their shops stating that their pottery had been made without wax. And this indicated that their products were guaranteed to be authentic. If any cracks were detected in the hardening process, then that pot was simply thrown out. The point to note, though, is that the way in which a pot would be discovered to be cracked would be if it was held up to the light. And if that happened, then anyone could see whether it had any imperfections. And I use that illustration because I want to highlight the fact that, as we read in 1 John chapter 1, Jesus is the light of the world, in whom there is no darkness at all. And for ourselves, when we hold ourselves up to his scrutiny, then everything about us is exposed. The question for us all has to be whether, when we're exposed to the light of Christ, are we seen to have lives which are patched over and cosmetically disguised so that they appear genuine and complete? Or are we people who, by God's grace and his empowering life within us, are not afraid to be tested for any cracks and any character blemishes? Next Sunday we'll look at John's words in the following verse in this chapter in 1 John chapter 1. If we walk in the light as he is in the light, we have fellowship with one another, and the blood of Jesus, his Son, cleanses us from all sin. In other words, if we are walking in the light of Christ, then there will be no pretending. There will only be purity and sincerity. I wonder, are there parts of our lives which we might try to cover up so that they appear to be of good quality? Indeed, will we let the light of Christ test our lives and expose any hidden flaws or cracks? And if we find that there are hidden flaws and cracks, will we allow God's redeeming grace to purify us and to make us whole and sincere? I leave some such questions for our consideration. Thank you for listening, and may God bless you.